Yes.
Okay, it started. You just can't see it.
Hello everyone, I'm Egon. I'm your chef for today. And so today I'd like to show you all a couple healthy recipe for bruschetta, which, you know, hopefully you can feed it to your children, give them a nice, nutritious, and filling snack that'll help, you know, give them nutrients, their vitamins, their minerals, and just fuel them for the day.
Yeah.
So bruschetta is it's a cooked topping made up of tomatoes, onions, basil, and then a little bit of a balsamic drizzle and olive oil drizzle, and it's usually placed on bread with some cheese. And so the great thing about this bruschetta topping is that you can use it for anything. It can go on bread as a traditional style, it can go on or be a pizza topping, it can go on nachos, inside a quesadilla because kids love cheese, or even on top of nachos. And so to start out with, our pan's getting hot. Probably going to increase the heat to about medium temperature so it gets a nice, nice heat on it. And we're looking for the pan to be hot enough that you can't hold your hand above it, like 2 inches above it for about 5 seconds. So it's not there yet, but what we can do while that's heating up is toast our bread. So now I'm going to put this in the salamander for about 15 seconds maybe a little longer. At home, if you don't have a salamander like this, you can set your oven on to broil, and that should alleviate or get the same amount of temperature. You just got to be careful to not walk away or not leave it, because these things love to set things on fire and burn. So if it's taking too long for your liking, you can also raise the height of the rack up. Yes, question?
So I watch Food Network and they always rub garlic cloves on the bread. What's that about?
That is a way of, you're taking the essential oils from the garlic and kind of infusing that and rubbing it onto the bread. As well, the oils from it, they help the browning process. Make sure you wear or use some kind of heat protective item to doing this. As you can see, they're getting a nice golden color.
That's so quick.
Kind of want one of those for my house.
Me too. Where can we get one of those?
The salamander at Restaurant Depot. Okay. So the pan's still, it's maybe 10 seconds away from being hot enough, so I'm going to go ahead, add just a little bit of olive oil, or this is actually blended oil, because olive oil, even though Food Network and other cooking shows tell you to use olive oil, it just doesn't hold up to heat for good sauteing as we like. So as you can see, we're starting to get a little smoking action, and we'll take our minced shallots and garlic and add those to the pan. And so this is what we call sauteing, and as you can hear, there's this crackle, which is the moisture from the shallots and the garlic interacting with the hot oil and basically instantaneously evaporating it. And the browning process that we're getting on the shallots, and that's going to develop flavor and create a little bit of sweetness, that's called the Maillard reaction, and it's creating caramelized flavors within the sugar. So as we're sauteing these, we're already starting to get a bitish color, and as you can see, they're about to go a little bit translucent. From here, we're going to add our garbanzo beans because they're the next sturdiest item to add. And so we need to saute these a bit to break them down, make them softer, so your children will eat them and not be grossed out by hard balls of starch and fat and protein in their food. And so as these are sauteing, we can go ahead and start building our flavors by adding just a little bit of salt and pepper, and kind of, as you cook, you know, just sporadically season and add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper to it, and it just slowly builds up those flavors. But you don't want to add too much, because then, of course, if you're constantly adding salt and pepper, by the time you get to your end product, it'll taste over-seasoned.
What benefits of using garbanzo in this recipe are there for health-wise for my kids?
I'm sorry,
what benefits, like health benefits, are for my kids when I use garbanzo beans?
Oh, so with beans, beans have lots of protein and fibers. So as far as if you have a child with diabetes, the fiber is great for neutralizing the effects of excessive carbohydrates or sugary foods. But in general, the fiber, the protein, and the fat of beans are just very good in terms of an energy source. There's not a lot of cholesterol. There's lots of nutrients, got iron in them. I believe folate, niacin.
Nice.
And so now we're adding our tomatoes, which tomatoes are going to take the least amount of time to cook. We're just trying to stew them really. And what the tomatoes are doing in this dish is they're adding, of course, tomatoey flavor, but they also have lots of vitamin C and antioxidant properties to essentially help they provide immune system support as well as cell regeneration. And the tomatoes have been shown to fight cancer.
Wow.
And so now we're going to add just another touch of salt and pepper. Give the pan a couple shakes. And now we have some chiffonade basil in here, which is you peel the leaf, or you pluck the leaves of the basil and then roll them into a tiny stick and then cut across them like so, except it's not your finger. So now we're adding the basil to it. And the basil has a lot of great flavor. It's colorful. It's got some good plant phenols in it, which are antioxidative. We're going to take our spoon now, stir it up, because sometimes the chiffonade basil just likes to lock together. And so now, if you want to upscale this while you're at it, or if you're if you're hosting a party or something like that, at this point you could add some white wine or some red wine, depending on how you feel, and that would enhance the flavor of the dish. But so, while it's sauteing and we're stewing down the tomatoes, we're going to take some spinach, which is high in calcium and iron, and we're going to make a bed of spinach on each of the little crostinis. And so the spinach, you want to, with most of your leafy vegetables, you want to wash at least 3 times to remove dirt, impurities, and any possible bacteria that might be on it from the harvesting process or growing process.
Do I need to do that even if I buy organic spinach?
Yes. I would say especially if you buy organic spinach, just because usually they're sitting in some kind of compost or possibly soil that has been fertilized with manure, which is still perfect. It's perfectly safe and fine for growing. You just want to make sure that none of that's getting into your food afterwards. And also, if you buy packaged greens at the grocery store, for instance, I believe it's like the Simply Organics brand, those are also fine. We don't need to wash those because they wash them 3 times, as they say on the package. So now, make sure you're holding the towel as you grab the pan. You're going to take your plating spoon and just simply and easily put a little dollop of the mixture onto each of the crostinis. And you can vary this recipe up, or cater it or taper it to your children based off of what their dietary likes are. If they don't really like beans, you can say replace garbanzos with something smaller like a lentil, or you could even try just pureeing the beans and incorporating that into your tomato or your sauce. And so now we have our bruschettas are plated, and what I have here is a little bit of balsamic vinegar that I have reduced on the stovetop. I'm just going to bring it back up to heat so it will spread, because as you can see now, it's barely moving. And this is another great thing. If your children are a little too I guess picky with their food choices, you don't have to add this balsamic vinegar. But say you're doing some kind of party with other adults that are going to be there, they'll love this. Balsamic reduction is just great flavor. It's sweet, tart, and it provides some pop to the plate with all the with your green and your greens, reds, and tan color of the bread. And finally, just finish it with just a slight pinch of salt over the top. And there's bruschetta.